All humans have a sword they are born with, every year on your birthday. Your sword gets more detailed and powerful. You are born with a gun. In a few minutes, the Festival of Change will begin, and I have no idea what I'm going to do. A public holiday where the entire world welcomes the latest development of their soul sword. It's a time of revelry and duels and experimenting with new powers. It's also the hardest day of the year to hide the fact that you don't have soul sword. I've been keeping up with the development of my sword so far, but I've run out of road. As a child, I could find a slightly larger penknife or butter knife or steak knife. It was unconventional, but as a narrative it made sense. Some were late bloomers, and their sword took flight as a young adult, earning life-changing powers, like flight, to balance off the early disappointment. I was too broke to buy a showy replica, and too weak and slow to suggest that I had gained any physical or more mental powers. My truth was going to come out. I had no soul sword. I had a useless weapon in its place. It had grown over the years as a sword would from a tiny derringer, through a revolver, automatic, and now as a small machine pistol. I suppose it is heavy enough that I could hit someone with it, or perhaps the shock of seeing a gun might give someone pause, but guns were unheard of, and so bullets were impossible to come by. Even if they were, my gun changed every year and the ammunition would be useless. What is more pointless? A gun with no bullets or a sword with no power? Probably the gun, although an underpowered sword was more likely to get you challenged to a duel you can't win. I stepped out of the door with the beautiful katana I had managed to afford last year to bluff my way through the last festival. I knew it would not change, could not change. But staying at home was not an option. It was the only compulsory element of our lives. Dying was my only way out of this, and I was not about to take my own life. However, there was a very real chance it would be taken from me by some overlost festival goer looking to try out his new power. They would have no idea I was defenseless, and what would be just the equivalent of a pat on the back between friends would be enough to split me in two. The town square was already flooded with excitement and alcohol, and people with blades. I picked my way through the crowd looking for some cover so that when the change happened, I could shield myself from any prying eyes. It would be obvious nothing had happened, and even through the booze that would pique interest in others, I smelt ozone on the air, and I knew the moment was near. People began to raise their blades aloft, and a low keening came from 1,000 throats at once. I tried to follow, but the futility of it made my katana weigh a ton. My arms dropped, and so did my gaze. As it did so, I caught the eyes of a girl about my age. She looked at me with the same sorrow I felt. She held a short curved scimitar with a jeweled pommel, but I noticed how she avoided it touching anyone else's weapon. I looked at her, and she looked at me, and all around us, the golden glow of the change bloomed. The keening rose in pitch and volume as people watched their soul sword explode with power and potential. Neither of our blades so much as flickered. I made a decision that would change my life. I elbowed my way through the throng and took her free hand in mine, partially out of self-interest, partly out of excitement, and partly out of concern for her. She was in as much danger as I was. "Do you want to get out of here?" I asked. Two people leaving together to do things two people might do together was about the only excuse that would stand up for why you missed the festival. Pairing up after the change was a big part of the appeal of the day. "Yes, please." Quickly, she said, and I led her as quickly as I could back to my small flat on the edge of town. Once we were clear of the main square and mass of people, I risked talking again. "I'm Tripe," I said as an introduction. "It's not far now." "Have you always been like this? Like me?" "Yonani," she said. "People call me Yanni. Most people call me Nanny Yenny because I'm so scared of fighting. They would be scared too if they were unarmed. Me too,
and yes,
I said. I've
I just
always
assumed
been
this
like
would be the
this.
year I got found out. I just ran
We
out
reached
of
the
options
door
this
of my
year.
flat, and I unlocked it. This is me. Do you want to come in? No
No,
one is around, she said,
you could
walking into
probably
my
sneak
place.
home now?
I think it's best if I stay with you a bit yet. It will be safer later when people start heading home, and the initial jewels are all completed. I followed her into the flat. Then it hit me. What I'd left on the table. Fuck, I shouted and tried to force my way past her. It was too late. Yenny turned to face me, open-mouthed in shock, holding what now appeared to be a short assault rifle in her hands. It was still crackling with power, post its changing. It's a hobby of mine, I said. It's no big deal. I've not ever used it or anything. She carefully placed the gun on the table. Then she removed her backpack and opened it, crouching down to retrieve something. Come on, I said. Don't tase me. I was trying to help you. Please? I'm not going to tase you, Yenny said, holding her hands out to me. I think that we are going to be able to help each other. I looked down. A crackle of light traced an outline I'd dreamt of for my whole life. She held a magazine